Turkey's main opposition party, the Republican People's Party, is facing one of its biggest internal crises in its recent history after a court ruling temporarily overturned its current leadership. An Ankara Regional Appeals Court ruled that the CHP Congress held in November 2023, where Özgür Özel was elected party chair, was legally invalid under the principle of absolute nullity, temporarily reinstating former leader Kemal Kılıçdaroğlu and his administration. But how did Turkey's main opposition end up here? At the 38th Ordinary Congress on the 4th and 5th of November 2023, delegates elected Özgür Özel as the new CHP chairman, ending Kemal Kılıçdaroğlu's long leadership and bringing in a new party administration. Nearly a year and a half later, the internal party dispute moved to the judicial arena, where some delegates, including former CHP Hatay Mayor Lütfi Savaş, filed lawsuits on the 15th of February 2025 seeking the annulment of the Congress.
Müvekkilim Sayın Lütfi Savaş adına Cumhuriyet Halk Partisi'nin 2023 yılındaki 38. kurultayında yaşanan usulsüzlükler ve delegelerin iradesinin sakatlanması iddiaları ile ilgili olarak Ankara Cumhuriyet Başsavcılığına yeni bir suç duyurusunda bulunduğumuzu kamuoyuna duyuruyoruz.
The lawsuits, including allegations of vote manipulation, procedural irregularities, and claims that the will of the delegates had been compromised. Over time, these separate lawsuits were merged, and the 38th Congress became the subject of a single, high-profile annulment case at the Ankara 42nd Civil Court of First Instance.
Delegates were pressured to change the election outcome with dollars distributed in hotels, iPhones, and iPads handed out, and some delegates promised houses, cars, or jobs in exchange for votes.
During the CHP Ordinary Congress held on November 4-5, 2023, some delegates' free will was compromised through untraceable money, iPhones, iPads, and promises of jobs in CHP-run municipalities, ultimately securing victory for Özgür Özel and his administration.
Everyone was asked to photograph their ballot and send it in. I did the same, and the images are included in the case file. The Erzurum provincial chair received around $300,000. I know he took the money because he also gave some to me.
As the annulment cases proceeded in Ankara, CHP headquarters took a political decision that added a new layer of complexity on the 21st of March 2025, announcing it will convene an extraordinary Congress. This created a constant tension between the pending lawsuits and the ongoing Congress calendar, and that tension became a defining feature of the period. On the 6th of April 2025, CHP delegates gathered for the Extraordinary Congress, and Özgür Özel was once again elected as CHP's general chairman. Shortly after the 24th of April 2026, CHP delegates Yılmaz Özkanat and Hatip Karaaslan submitted a joint petition to the Ankara 41st Civil Court of First Instance, seeking the annulment of this Congress and the issuance of injunction measures.
Processes such as the Ordinary Congress held on November 4th to 5th, 2023, particularly the CHP Istanbul Provincial Congress, were overshadowed by financial dealings, unlawful practices, and interventions that undermined the democratic will. The decisions taken at these congresses are null and void. The Extraordinary Congress held on April 6, 2025, which was built upon this state of nullity, is therefore entirely invalid from beginning to end.
In September 2025, an Istanbul Civil Court ordered the temporary removal of the CHP Istanbul Provincial Chair and Executive Board elected at the party's 38th Ordinary Istanbul Congress, appointing an interim administration in their place. This left one of CHP's most important provincial branches under court-appointed management, adding the Istanbul case to wider allegations surrounding the Congress process. After more than 900 delegates signed a petition, CHP applied to the local district election board to hold another extraordinary Congress on the 21st of September 2025. A CHP delegate later appealed, first to the district and then to the provincial election board, seeking cancellation of this Congress, bringing the dispute before Turkey's Supreme Election Council. Amid this turmoil, CHP held its 39th Ordinary Congress between the 28th and 30th of November 2025, while both of the party's previous Congresses remained under legal scrutiny. Ahead of the 39th Congress, disputes over provincial Congresses and delegate selection returned to the court, with lawsuits seeking the annulment of some local elections and questioning the legitimacy of the wider Congress process. Throughout 2025, Ankara's 42nd Civil Court of First Instance heard combined lawsuits seeking the annulment of CHP's 38th Ordinary Congress and the 21st Extraordinary Congress. It held multiple hearings and examining allegations of voting irregularities and violations of party rule. On the 10th of November 2025, the court announced its reasoned decision, saying the case had become moot in light of developments after the contested Congresses that were there was no need to issue a ruling on the merits of the annulment requests. The delegates who had brought the case challenged the moot finding and asked a higher court to carry out a full review of the Congresses in question. As a result, the file was transferred from the Ankara 42nd Civil Court of First Instance to the Ankara Regional Court of Justice on the 11th of November 2025. In May of 2026, a new element was added to the legal and political debate surrounding CHP's dubious Congress process, the statement of former CHP Uşak Mayor Özkan Yalım. Yalım testified under Turkey's effective remorse provision, alleging that 1.2 million Turkish lira was distributed ahead of the Congress and that delegates were offered jobs in support of Özgür Özel's leadership bid. His statement strengthened claims that the Congress process may have been influenced by financial and political incentives rather than purely by the free will of delegates. On the 6th of May 2026, a hearing was held in a related criminal case in which several prominent CHP figures, including Istanbul Mayor Ekrem İmamoğlu, İzmir Mayor Cemil Tugay, and Istanbul Provincial Chair Özgür Çelik, faced charges linked to alleged voting fraud. The most critical civil law development in the case came shortly afterwards, on the 21st of May 2026, when Ankara's 36th Civil Chamber of the Regional Court of Justice overturned an earlier moot ruling and declared CHP's 38th Ordinary Congress legally void under absolute nullity. The court ruled that the Congresses on the 4th and 5th of November 2023 was invalid from the outset due to the serious violations, and that the subsequent Congresses and party bodies formed afterwards were also void. After the ruling, former Hatay Metropolitan Municipality Mayor Lütfi Savaş, who had filed one of the lawsuits, framed the decision as a turning point that went beyond party politics.
Varsa bir şaibeyle ilgili insanların ayıklanması, yoksa da partimizi hiç kimsenin kirletmemesi gerektiğini düşündüm. Bu nedenle bu davayı açtım. Ama bugün bu dava sonuçlandı. Gerçekten de belki de Türk siyasi tarihinin en önemli davasıydı.
As a result of the ruling, the Özgür Özel administration was suspended, while Kemal Kılıçdaroğlu and the party leadership in place before the 30th Congress were temporarily reinstated.
Cumhuriyet Halk Partisi köklü bir partidir. Cumhuriyet Halk Partisi ahlaki değerlerini korumak zorundadır. Ben hepinizin huzurunda bütün vatandaşlarıma, özellikle de partilere söz veriyorum. Cumhuriyet Halk Partisi'ni kuruluşundaki kodlara yeniden kavuşturacağız. Bizim partiye çok eleştiri gelmiştir. Tarihinde eleştiri gelmiştir. Muhalefetten eleştiri gelmiştir. Sivil toplumdan eleştiri gelmiştir. Ama partinin ahlaki değerleriyle ilgili olarak bugüne kadar hiçbir eleştiri gelmemiştir. Şimdi geliyor. Bu partiyi ahlaki sorunlarla karşı karşıya bırakmak, buna benzer bazı olaylar karşısında suskunluğumuzu sürdürmek artık doğru değil.
The day after the absolute nullity decision, CHP leadership took legal and institutional steps to challenge the ruling before both the regional court and Turkey's Supreme Election Council, seeking to block its effects. However, both institutions rejected the objections, leaving the regional court's ruling in force. Although powerful, the decision is not yet final, and CHP has the right to appeal to the Court of Cassation, Turkey's highest appeals court, with the prescribed period. As Turkey watches these developments, the key question now is whether this legal battle will ultimately strengthen internal party democracy in the CHP or deepen the fractures inside the country's main opposition movement.